welcome to Criterion Corner, where I review movies on the Criterion Channel. I always thought, why is everyone reviewing these new movies when we can talk about some old ones? So, and the first up, we have 19 movies that I've seen on Criterion Channel so far. In the future, I'll be reviewing individual movies and having a more in-depth analysis. But for this first video, I thought I'd just give general feelings I had from watching these 19 movies. Because it's been long enough that I don't really remember a lot of these. So, but I do remember the general feeling I got, and I ranked them 19 through 1. So the 19, in the 19th place was Kinetta, directed by Yorgos Lanthimos, and you could see his early style creeping in, the seeds of his style that kind of bloom in his later works like The Lobster and Killing of a Sacred Deer. But this one, it just had seeds. It was more like, it felt like an early, almost mumblecore student film. And you could tell he hadn't really honed in his style yet, but it was cool to see the inner workings there and see how it blooms later in his career. That's his first solo directorial debut. Then we have Black Narcissus, and I did not like it. I thought it was a little more fine-tuned than Kinetta, but it wasn't really for me. I'm looking forward to seeing the remake that came out in 2020, I think, and see what I think of that, because there were elements in there in general that I did like. 17th is I Live in Fear, an Akira Kurosawa film. It was a very important film, I felt, obviously, because of it explored the fear of the atomic bomb and the H-bomb, and what it did to the mental health of Japanese people, and so that was really moving. But it's just not my favorite Akira Kurosawa film, and I got a little taken out of it by the use of blackface with the Asian man dressed as a black character. So it didn't age well, and it was a little hard for me to stomach. Easy Rider is next. I liked the kind of frantic editing style, you know, how it flashes back and forth between scenes as it transitions. It's noted for that. But overall, I liked how it got really trippy towards the end, like with the cemetery and everything. It gets pretty trippy and drug-induced, and I like the ending. Next is Early Spring, an Ozu film. Yeah, this was weird because just seeing the difference in different notable Japanese directors and how they handle women was really enlightening. Like in Kurosawa films, they can be bloodthirsty, you know, they have human emotions, they're well-rounded. In Ozu films, this is the only Ozu film I've seen, but in Early Spring, they're quite frightening because they just constantly smile and look like Stepford wives. It's kind of like they're always happy even when they're upset, and it was very unusual to watch. Now the next one, On the Beach at Night Alone. I remember enjoying this film, but I cannot tell you anything that happened in it. I just can't remember it at all. So maybe it didn't have a great impact on me, but I do remember it liking a little more than Early Spring. Next we have the Japanese horror House, and this movie was really fun. I have to say the special effects were terrible, and the music was really distracting because it was also awful, but it was a lot of fun to watch, and after a while I got used to the musical style, and it really benefited from it, actually. But it's one of those films that's just so fun to watch. It's a wild ride. Masculin, Féminin by Godard. I liked some of the characters and the nuance of like the actor throwing a cigarette in his mouth, little touches like that he would constantly do, and he would mess up sometimes, but I wonder how many takes it took to get that. It kind of falls apart in the end and ends abruptly, but I still enjoyed it. In the realm of the senses, I was not prepared for this movie. It was a lot of real sex that I had no idea. I had heard it was like, it was either banned in Japan or it was just censored because you couldn't show actual intercourse. They usually blur it in their porn. So I wasn't prepared and I was surprised going into it, but I actually really liked it. I could have done without, there's a scene with these naked children running around and the woman, the actress, grabs the boy's penis and pulls on it. I could have done without that because it felt really uncomfortable, like it shouldn't have been filmed. But the ending was pretty horrifying, and I really I liked the impact it left on me. Secret Sunshine was the next one, and this one, it was, it's a little bit depressing, but it had the sense of tension even when things were going well. Like at the movie, it's pretty light and fun at first. Like you get a sense of the heavy, but it doesn't bring it in until later. But there's something that happens later on in the film that they definitely have heavy foreshadowing in the first part of the film. My heart just stopped for a minute, and I don't want to give anything away because it's a spoiler, but it's a beautiful journey about grief and loss, and I really enjoyed that one too. Breathless was next, another Godard film. This one is one of his more narrative things that I've seen, and I thought it was fantastic, really well done. Mulholland Drive is just above Breathless. You know, I haven't seen a lot of David Lynch films. I've seen Blue Velvet, Eraserhead, and Mulholland Drive, and I think that's about it. And Mulholland Drive, it was paired with Persona on the Criterion Channel as a double feature, and I can definitely see why, because they have similar themes that are explored, and I love that kind of head trip and doppelganger stuff is very much my thing, so that one was really cool. Lore was next, and my god, the cinematography was amazing in that movie. It was just beautiful to look at. But it explored, and I really liked that it explored a different side to things that we normally see. Like if we see something so much, movies about the Nazis being evil, and obviously it was explored as a bad thing, but it explored what happened to Germans after they lost World War II, and what impact it had on the families of Nazis. And it was a lot. It really reminded me of How I Live Now with Saoirse Ronan. It was very much the same with this girl kind of leading her brothers and sisters across the country during wartime, or in this case after wartime. But How I Live Now had a much more emotional impact, and it's one of my favorite films. And even though it dealt with a fictional war, you really felt tension the entire time. And maybe with this one, because the war was over, there just isn't as much tension and emotional impact even when these terrible things were happening. I couldn't get behind the lead girl, really, and feel her story as much as I think I was supposed to. But just how beautiful it looked, and that it was a different side to things than we normally get to see. It was really great. The Seventh Seal. I really like Ingmar Bergman films. I was very much influenced by this as a child because I saw a lot of like cartoon parodies of this, and it influenced my writing in death being personified as a human being, and it just it was a great exploration of facing mortality, and the ending I really liked. Next we have Eraserhead. This was very much my shit. Yeah, it's one of the weirder Lynch films. It's my favorite Lynch film that I've seen, and it's just it's a weird, dreamy trip, man. 8.5 by Federico Fellini. That was it was one of my favorite films after I saw it. It just had a great impact on me in the editing and the way the story develops about a filmmaker, and it was just really inspiring. The Lower Depths is another Akira Kurosawa film. This is probably my it's top tier Kurosawa for me, maybe third. I have to look at the list again. I have a ranking of Kurosawa films as well. But this one, his use of space is just amazing. The set design and production design of this one room, most of the movie takes place in this one room, and the way they use the space is just phenomenal. And the way he puts a scene together is just wild. And it's definitely one of the better Kurosawa films I've seen. And Persona is number 2 on our list. And this, my favorite film is Donnie Darko, but this is definitely up there. It's another Bergman film. It's just phenomenal in its treatment of identity, and it really deals with a psychological thriller aspect of everything, and doppelgangers, and that's very much my kind of thing. Wild Strawberries topped off the list, number 1, and it's another Bergman film, but I don't even remember all the details from this film after I saw it, but I remember thinking just being stunned and speechless, and I thought about it for a long time afterwards, and just exploring this man towards the end of his life and thinking about youth and his past and love, and it was really moving. Alright, that's Criterion Corner, and in the future I'll be watching a movie a week and doing a review on it, and I hope to see you there.